This question looks to how the connection or loving kindness practice can have a real world impact on our regard and treatment for a person, in particular, the difficult person. The question begins by noting that the connection practice does not call for us to treat anyone differently, but rather to cultivate positive regard for ourselves and others. And by that, I believe the questioner means to wish happiness and health and safety and ease to somebody else. And then goes on to say, but if part of the practice is to call to mind difficult people, to wish that for, is there a way to channel the practice to learn how to better tolerate difficult people? So it's a really interesting question. It's an important question because wouldn't it be nice if we could better tolerate difficult people? And in many ways, the practice is designed to move us in that direction. It specifically serves that purpose. Let me just share a little bit why, because it may not be so obvious. But most importantly, practice, and over a period of time, see what may change. I personally know this from my own direct experience in very profound ways. So there's an underlying reality that we might want to take, that's important to take note of to understand, I think, the answer to the question, which is that we are adding a lot of evaluation and judgment and assumptions about the person who we are regarding as difficult. We can accept, for the sake of argument, and certainly in the practice of law, that there are people who will be unprofessional and unkind and aggressively provocative and not constructive and not helpful and themselves overwhelmed and angry, and it doesn't it's what makes the person difficult in terms of how we would regard them. And indeed, it can be challenging to interact with that person. So we accept that as granted. But we add so much onto it. We have stories about the person. This is outrageous. This person's unbelievable. I can't believe they would say that. How could they say that? They're completely lying. We build more onto it. And so we can't, and mindfulness practices like the connection practice isn't going to change the reality on the ground. We have to figure out ways of responding skillfully and effectively to represent our client, and to serve our own interests well in terms of the quality of our life and our professional careers. But it's not because, and we can do that if we size it up for what it is, if we see it as clearly as we can. A reminder, Sharon Salzberg, for whom the loving kindness practice and the connection practice is something that she has made very popular over decades and decades of sharing it with thousands and thousands of people. She says that mindfulness is being able to tell the difference between what's taking place and the story we're telling ourselves about what's taking place. And we're not always aware, I would suggest, I know from my own experience, of how it is that what's coming at us in terms of this person and their deeds and their written motions, etc., what's coming at us, there's it, and then there's the story we're telling ourselves about it. And that gap, that divide between what's happening and the story we're telling ourselves about what's happening, the way something is a conflict to be resolved and it becomes a personal attack, right? That adds insult to injury. That's where the painful or the difficult or the challenging part of the interaction, obstacles emerge, and it becomes a source of suffering. And so the uttering of those phrases, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, is in some ways inviting us, nudging us to sort of work our way back to the reality that's there to be met, and then to be able to more skillfully meet it, because there's less noise surrounding the signal that's very important for us as lawyers and as human beings to be able to see clearly. But most importantly, I can say this and you can say, oh, that makes sense. It's an extraordinary thing when the practice itself, like watering seeds that continue to through that nurturing grow, we experience that for ourselves. It's an extraordinary thing when the difficult person doesn't change, and yet the way we are in relationship to them does change in a way that's beneficial to us, our well-being, and our ability to respond and meet the challenge that they are bringing our way. I hope that's helpful. Very nice question.